And we're back with another segment with Mr. Marshall Simien with Envision Lake Charles. So, man, we've been going over some great topics, some great ideas that you've been setting for, and I think the city will definitely be able to benefit from some of the ideas.
We want them to have grown-up conversations.
That's
right.
it, grown-up conversations. Last segment, we talked about community safety and things of that nature. Can we just revisit that as well
Sure.
and talk about, because community safety, in your opinion, is not just with the police, right?
Oh, no. When you talk about community safety, I look at it as under public safety. Public safety, the true definition of public safety, it's a system of rules, enforcement, because if you don't have enforcement, the rules don't count, but also mechanisms such as infrastructure and services that do two things. It either reduce the risk of life or reduce the risk to quality of life. Now, so you've got your normal police and fire protection, you've got your public works that do different things, you've got the penal system, prosecution, incarceration. I had to, that's a very tough word for me because I think there's a lot more incarceration than is necessary because it kind of kicks the can up down the road, but if the road is at an incline, guess what? The can's not moving.
It ain't moving.
And
Right.
you're not moving. So, but there's other things that we do that comes in. You got emergency response, but if you look at the true meaning of public safety, that includes safe neighborhoods, that includes quality schools, that includes access to safe and affordable housing, that includes comprehensive health services, not just physical health, but also mental health, because that's a major component of a lot of things that happen. It also deals with drug and alcohol treatment, rehabilitation programs, public transportation, and most importantly, safe gathering places where people can interact. So when all those things come together in a holistic manner, then the public safety takes off, because the police and fire, they have their job to do, but the community has theirs to do too. When I was younger, if I did something wrong in my neighborhood, it wasn't just hoping that my parents would do it. The whole neighborhood were looking out and making sure that this was done. And so when we talk about things, you look at a lot of parents get involved with their children in the recreation.
You're right.
My children used to ask me all the time, Daddy, why every time I'm on a team, you're the coach? I said, yeah, that's because I'm there.
Yeah, I'm there.
When we're doing different activities with youth, I'm always there. And all that, the children are sponges. They're going to take in the positive and the negative of what they're surrounded by. And that can be a benefit to society or a harm to it. So,
That's correct.
If you got robust education programs, and I give you an example. We had gospel basketball. My child played gospel basketball, and I helped sponsor one of the teams, and they said, well, if you guys do the right thing at the end of the season, we'll get you whatever you want. Well, they did. They not only won games, but they were excellent young men off the court too. And at their award ceremony, they said, "Okay, Miss Simien, we know what we want." So at the time, we wanted a PlayStation 2. I said, "Hold on, I'm not contributing to the delinquency of a juvenile, But they said, but Coach Miller told me, he said, Marsha, if you promised it to them, I mean, these kids, they have too many people not delivering on promises to them.
Yeah.
So we went get it. And I remember my good friend Billy Navarre, I got this PlayStation 2, he got a television.
Oh, wow.
Well, when the kids showed up, they were, who's going to go first? I said, whoa, wait, you guys, you didn't read the fine print. To play on this thing, you got to bring some grades in, daily grades. And so we had them basically sign a contract. I wanted to show them, look, y'all going to have to handle business just like adults. So for every A, they got 30 minutes of play time.
Oh, wow.
Every B, they got 15 minutes. Every C, they got no time. Every D, they owed us 15 minutes. And every F, they owed us 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Well, you should have seen the kids coming in like, yeah, I got 30 minutes. And I'm like, and fist bump,
Yeah.
they got an A. But it was amazing because we took what was their value system and made it a reward system.
Yeah.
And some of these kids were thriving in school, in classes that otherwise you'd never seen that happen. So those kind of things come in. When these kids do that, then they become engaged, empowered. They had one child, I don't know what he was doing in math before, but he was bringing in straight A's.
Wow.
And look, I mean, what's the most prolific profession that they need a need for is engineers. So once you start channeling those talents toward things that,
Yeah.
I tell them all the time. I say, look, if you can identify your talent and go out there and make money off of it, hey,
Yeah.
that's perfect, you know.
Yeah. You're winning. You're winning.
And so when that comes into play, then that takes a lot of the pressure off of police and the police protection, you know, fire protection, first responders, but also they work too. So we have to make sure that we get professional first responders. I mean, like the city, for instance, we recruit policemen all the time, firemen all the time. We invest in them, we train them, we get them into the payrolls, and then we're not paying them enough, and other communities are coming and cannibalizing them because if I can get a trained firefighter, I don't have to go out there. If I can get a trained policeman, I don't have to do that. So when I talked about the pie, making the pie bigger, then all the pieces get bigger. You know, in the city's budget, police is 1/4 of the city's budget. Fire is 1/4 of the city's budget. Public works is 1/4, and everything else is this other quarter. Well, if you make that pie bigger, now you can pay your police and fire true living wages so that they can take care of their families and they can stay on the job and be trained and get more experience that's going to benefit the community. So all of these things work hand in hand. If we develop our youth, it's going to protect our first responders. If we pay our first responders and reward them for the things that they do, we're going to have once you get into a certain groove, and I keep talking about that Lake City vibe, that's the sweet spot that I'd like to see us get to.
Okay. And that's quite interesting when you talk about community safety. But would you agree with me? The safety component cannot be expanded on until we have that true community education aspect.
Yes.
Would you agree those things
Yeah.
go hand in hand?
Yeah.
So explain to me how important the community education aspect, how important is that?
Well, the important thing is for the communities in the city to interact with each other and understand what the needs are, what the challenges are, and let's get together on it. We could have more community meetings where maybe the police would show up and say, look, we're going to conduct a community meeting, and you talk to them about what are the challenges crime-wise, but also how's your quality of life? What would you like to see? Would you like to see community policing? Are the patrols enough? And when we come in, how do we get so and so? How do we deal with people? When you're dealing with the community, there's a human component that goes a long way. There's a lot of emotion in the community, especially when things aren't going the way the community wants.
And another aspect that people fail to get informed on is the transparency in the city and public officials' office. Talk to me about the transparency that should be portrayed and that you will, in fact, portray in the office of the mayor.
Yeah, I think it's important for any public servant to respect the public and engage them in a way that's not just, how can I say it? Show them the proper respect by assuming that they can understand everything and being transparent with them, I would like to do, and I'm committed to this, I would like to do a State of the City address. The president does it for the United States. Some governors do that. I think the citizens deserve a State of the City address where you tell them, this is where we've been, this is where I think we can go. We welcome your input and do that. Now, some people don't want to deal with, well, there's some, and I dealt with it on the city council. There's some people that's always negative. They got they come in with their, I ain't gonna say what in their hand, but that's part of the process. But but if enough people understand, then some things happen. Like some things in Lake Charles are pretty stagnant because that's kind of the way we've always been doing it. That doesn't mean it's the right way. My dad always said, your comfort zone is not necessarily your set place. And so when people understand things a lot better, then they can embrace the change, because change for anybody just kind of, it's worrisome, even good change if you don't understand it. So if you're proposing some change and people can understand it, you'll be surprised at how much they can embrace it and be a part of that change.
Wow, man, that is absolutely incredible. We're talking about community safety and community education in the city of Lake Charles, and I believe that the transparency, like you said, will adapt and make our city into the city of the beacon light that we're needing to become.
You know what else, Donnie? Though?
What's that?
When you have those kind of discussions, people realize, wait a minute, I'm not the only person dealing with this. My community isn't the only one dealing with this. They're dealing with it too. And then you start thinking about what works for you versus what works for me, and how can we, if we're having these same things, what if y'all discussing, and that communication around transparency gets people more buy-in, and the solutions become much more agreeable and readily available to people.
Yeah. And when we come back in our next segment, we want to talk about not only the transparency, but the flow of information. And I think that is very important because we have so many outlets that people are saying, hey, this is going on, this is going on. Why can't we get a streamlined flow from one particular source that everyone knows that to go to this particular source to get all the information regarding the city, upcoming events, things of that nature. But we're going to come back and we're going to talk about those in our next segment with Envision Lake Charles with Mr. Marshall Simien.